is a consumer platform, a market research platform for consumer-obsessed insights marketers. And this is Tracy Nice. Tracy, do you want to do a little intro?
Hi everyone, hope everyone's having a good day. I am Tracy and I lead the insights and analytics team here in the UK for PepsiCo.
Cool. So we're here to talk to you today about creative effectiveness, and I'm guessing I probably don't need to spend much time talking to you about the importance of consumer insights and how important consumer insights are for advertising. That said, I've over 15 years working consumer side in telco, and I can't tell you the number of occasions that I've had leadership team conversations and have been given advice, contributions, judgments from leadership teams who haven't bought a mobile phone contract in over a decade because they haven't needed to, but think that their judgment, their point of view is valid in terms of how effective the ad is for the end consumer. So one of the things that we're talking about today with Tracy, and Tracy's got some great experience from PepsiCo, is how the role of consumer insights early and throughout a creative development process is helpful in terms of producing more effective advertising, and how it can really change the way you work and how you can do that. So Tracy, do you want to tell us a little bit about how PepsiCo have looked at that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of latched on to something that you said, which is nobody can disagree that consumers are important in this process. I think the big shift that we've seen is how we bring them into this process. And so I've been, despite my use of eye cream and my fantastic anti-aging serum, I've been in the business for a long time. From the days of market research to now consumer insight, we've shifted as an industry, really. And so we are getting into the conversation earlier and earlier. It's the how that's really different, though. So back in the day, we used to go into qualitative focus groups, have some conversations, and then we would sort of wait for a while, and then at the very end, when all the pressure is building, all the work is done, there's all this political discourse in the organization, we would throw it into copy test, and everybody would pray to God it would get through with all greens, or we would be in like a bit of a disaster. And by the way, there was no time to make any changes, so we had to keep moving on. So that has changed significantly in drip feeding consumer feedback throughout the process, and that's changed the way that we've worked.
Well, that's really interesting. So lots of our clients have shared this similar experience where you get to the very end of that creative process and you have this go, no go moment. That creates a lot of tension in teams and a lot of frustration. Can you talk a little bit about how some of PepsiCo's working practices and how they've overcome that, and how they've driven the change that you've just described?
Yeah, I mean, I think what happened was we were all, I would say in research, we were almost pinned as sort of like the enemy, like the gatekeeper. We'd have to get through stage gate to get through to the next stage. And that is not something that I would get up to do or that would excite me. It would be, Jesus, we got to share those results. Please, God, let them be good. And by the way, in other areas of the conversation, whether it's package design, some of that still is happening, and we still are pushing to get to a better place. But now that we're earlier in the process, we're in a stage of giving inspiration to creatives. So the deeper that you go with humans, having conversations with them, real conversations with them, drip feeding that into the creative brief and partnering much more closely with your agency, you're sort of gaining this level of trust. And then as you're going through the process, you're not debating the strategy anymore because you've already done that heavy lifting and work and alignment and partnership. You're cold calling each other about, is this human insight strong enough? Is it tight enough? As you go through the process, you're starting to learn about executional things, like things that can be changed, and you're not debating the strategy later in the process because everybody's been through a situation like that, right? When you're debating strategy at the end of the process, you fix this, because you're locked into an idea, by the way. There's no time to change your idea. You fix this, that breaks. You fix that, that breaks. And you're sort of in this doom loop of testing, and you're just stuck with it, and nobody feels really great. I've definitely seen situations like that. I've seen more optimistic situations, but I've definitely been in that doom loop before.
Yeah, everyone wants to avoid a doom loop. I've been there, done that. It's not great. Do you want to maybe when Tracy and I were talking before this, Tracy had a really good example with the Cheetos ad. Do you want to bring that example to life a little bit?
Yeah, so previous to being in the UK, I worked in the US in the global teams, and so their What's It's brand is Cheetos, and I'm aware that 30% of you are familiar with the brand in the UK, so I think we're all familiar with the brand. But just to give you some context, strategic context, they sort of were in a similar place of What's It's, of being like a very family brand. And they had an ambition to kind of shift and grow up with their consumer and sort of reach adolescence, so to speak. So that was sort of the backdrop. The tension that they were up against was sort of combating becoming an adult, resisting becoming an adult. Their consumer target are the juveniles. So that's the second backdrop. Third backdrop is they were launching a new product for Super Bowl, and they wanted to really hero the product truth of the dust on the fingers. So if you haven't heard this word before, they call it Cheetle. That's the cheesy dust on the fingers that you sort of wipe off on your t-shirt when you're kind of hungover and kind of moving on. But so that's sort of the strategic backdrop. But they really wanted to use that product truth to start unpicking some of the human tensions. So I'll stop talking about it now. I'll let you see the creative, and then we can talk about how this helped refine.
Okay, roll the ad if you can hear us at the back. We got it? Is it rolling? Yeah. Okay, are we getting an ad?
Popcorn now?
Hey, I'm gonna need you to. Never mind.
Okay, we can do it
Can't
without
touch
the ad.
this.
Help.
You
I
can't
don't know what
touch
thumbs
this.
up means, so is that
it's
do it
straight
with
now.
Okay.
You can't touch this. You can't touch this.
To watch the obligatory Miller ad while we're waiting for YouTube. This isn't the ad. Other brands are available.
Couldn't spring for the premium.
You can't touch this.
Help.
You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this.
I trust you.
Stop. Hammer time.
I touched it. New Cheetos popcorn. It's a Cheetos thing.
There's no sound.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, kill the ad.
There's no sound, right? You couldn't hear the sound? Okay, forget it.
Sorry.
I'll explain it. So basically, the protagonist is sort of this young adult male who's going through all these scenarios of sort of growing up in life, and he uses the Cheetle to sort of defend himself in these scenarios. So the boss comes and tells him he has to work late. Somebody's asking him to hold his kid. He's like, whoa, 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 can't touch this. And he's got MC Hammer playing in the background, saying, can't touch this, can't touch this. I got Cheetle, don't make me grow up. It's sort of like the product truth laying right into life, right? So how we use the Zappy toolkit, I think you were going to ask me, Lucy, is early on we had a few different protagonists going through these different scenarios. So right away we were able to tell, are we onto something here? Do we have something that's resonating, that's cutting through? Then we are also able to start understanding which of those scenarios were the funniest. Is it the baby? Is it the boss? What is it that we can bring into this conversation that makes it funny for people? So we had confidence in numbers very early on the process rather than relying on like 5 to 6 people in a focus group. So that's that bit. Then as we got further on, locked in the strategy, we're able to start to refine some of the executional elements. So the fact that MC Hammer featured as almost like not the devil, not the angel, but like this rejuvenile sort of ghost, and he kind of features throughout, got a lot of laughs from the audience. And so we knew that it was important to bring him in to connect the music with what we were trying to communicate. So I think that's how we started to use the tools to sort of optimize through the process.
Yeah, and I think what makes the difference is taking a creative idea, understanding what that core idea is, but knowing how best to execute it. So often brands come to us and they start with an amazing insight. It's really powerful and a great creative idea, And when you get to the end and you haven't had time to do creative research, and you get that go, no go moment, you miss all of the optimization that you can get from understanding how to make that aspect of an idea as strong as possible. So it isn't about validation, yay or nay, it's about continuous improvement, continuous optimization, understanding which of those brand codes are going to make your brand more effective and which of those things actually drive consumers to really love and enjoy the experience with the brand and the advertising. I think the other massive change, which Tracy referenced, is the agile way of working. So we've all heard the word agile, it's just been done to death, but genuinely a collaboration between the client, the creative agency, and insights all partnering together to get the best possible outcome for the brand is a really positive experience for everyone involved. And that's something that PepsiCo are really passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple years ago when we started this partnership with Zappi, we didn't own our own data, so we weren't really learning from what we were learning. And we had every single brief, you had to learn it all over again. And we operate in two major categories. It's a salty snack or it's a delicious beverage. And we've been doing that for years and years and years. Why are we relearning this every time? So like on the beverages side, the fact that there's a drip down the side, why don't we know that every single brief? So we can start to like meta learn with the data that we've got internally to say every single piece of copy or creative needs to have those codes and cues to communicate refreshment to drive the category. Conversation over, move on to something more exciting. Let's not be debating this kind of stuff. That's mandatory, it's in the brief. You know right from the start, we don't have to learn that later. So that kind of meta learn is really exciting for us because we don't want to be fighting about this kind of stuff. It's like we're in it together.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of us at time. But I guess the two things that I want you guys to take away is it's possible to learn early and often from your consumers throughout ad development. That's the thing. It's real, and the more you can do it, the better your ads will be. And the other thing is, once you start that process of learning, how you consolidate those learnings over time and use the big insights, the macro insights that inform every ad that you create, that helps make sure that you understand the codes that resonate in that category or with that brand, so that you don't have to keep learning it every time you do a new piece of creative. That's it from us today. You're very welcome to come and find us if you've got any questions. The Zappi stand is around the corner. Branding looks like that if you want to try and find us. So in the innovation tent. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lucy and Tracy. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, guys.